Queen Chudala has reached self-realization through self-enquiry. Her husband, King Sikhidhvaja, though, has not. It's eluded him. Moreover, he cannot acknowledge his wife's attainment. Vasishta continued, devoid of self-knowledge, the king Sikhidhvaja became blinded by delusion. He was sunk in grief which nothing in the world could assuage. Soon he began to seek solitude, like you, O Ram, doing just those royal duties which his ministers made him do. Sikhidhvaja then is a spiritual seeker. His wife is a spiritual practitioner, and he's not managed to move from one to the other. He gave plenty in charity, he performed various austerities, but there was no change in the delusion and in the sorrow. After considerable deliberation, one day Sikhidhvaja said to his queen, "My dear, I have enjoyed sovereignty for a long time, and I have enjoyed all the royal pleasures. Neither pleasure nor pain, neither prosperity nor adversity, is able to disturb the mind of the ascetic. Hence I wish to go to the forest and become an ascetic. The beloved forest, which resembles you in every respect," and here he gives a romantic description of the forest, comparing it to the limbs of the queen, "will delight my heart even as you do. So give me leave to go, for a good housewife does not obstruct her husband's wishes." I'm not sure most women would fall for this line and flattery as an excuse to go off and abandon them. But Sikhidhvaja's situation is that he has to withdraw. His life has become meaningless to him, and the point being that he's a king who's got everything he needs. He's got a beautiful, loving wife, he's got loving subjects, he's a good king. What more could somebody ask for? He's got everything, but it's not enough. And so he knows about the ascetics who apparently reach some kind of equanimity. Chudala replied, "Lord, that action alone shines as appropriate which is done at the appropriate time. Flowers are appropriate to spring and fruits to the winter. Forest life is appropriate to old age, not for people of your age." The tradition is that after having done so many years as a householder, you spend the last part of your life, old age, in the forest. You renounce everything and you go to seek liberation in the forest. At your age, the household life is appropriate. When we grow old, both of us shall leave this household life and go to the forest. Moreover, your subjects will grieve over your untimely departure from the kingdom. Sikhidhvaja said, "My dear, do not place obstacles on my path. Know that I have already left for the forest. You are but a child, and it is not proper that you should go to the forest too and lead the hard ascetic life. Hence remain here and rule the kingdom." Vasishta continued, "That night, while the queen was still asleep, the king left the palace on the pretext of patrolling the city. He rode a whole day and reached a dense forest in the Mandara mountain. It was far, far from habitation, and there were signs that the place had been inhabited previously by holy Brahmanas. There he built a cottage for himself and equipped it with whatever he considered necessary for the ascetic life, like a stick made of bamboo, eating utensil or plate, water vessel, a tray for flowers, a kamandalu, a rosary, a garment to protect him from the cold, a deer skin." A kamandalu is a pot for storing water, which has got various symbolism related to the ascetic. There he commenced his ascetic life. The first part of the day he spent in meditation and japa, which is repetition of the holy mantra. The second part of the day he spent in gathering flowers, and this was followed by bath and worship of the deity. Thereafter he took a frugal meal consisting of fruits and roots. The rest of the time he spent in japa, or the repetition of the mantra, Thus he spent a long time in the cottage without ever thinking of his kingdom, etc. Vasishta continued. Chudala awoke with a fright when she discovered that her husband had left the palace. She felt unhappy and decided that her place was by her husband's side. Quickly she also got out of the palace through a small window and flew in the sky looking for her husband. Chudala's developed supernormal powers, remember, so the power of flight being one of them. Soon she found him wandering in the forest, but before alighting near him she considered future events through her psychic vision. She saw everything as it was destined to happen to the smallest detail. Bowing to the inevitable, she returned to the palace by the same aerial route she had taken. Chudala announced that the king had left the palace on an important mission. From then on, she herself conducted the affairs of the state. For 18 years she dwelt in the palace and he in the forest, without their seeing each other. He had begun to show signs of old age. At that time, Chudala saw that her husband's mind had ripened considerably, and that it was time for her to help him attain enlightenment. She saw with her psychic intuition. Having thus determined, she left the palace at night and flew to where he was. She beheld the celestials and the perfected sages in the heavens. She flew through clouds, inhaling the heavenly perfume, and looking forward with great eagerness to her reunion with her husband. She was excited and her mind was agitated. Becoming aware of this mental state, she said to herself, surely as long as there is life in the body, one's nature does not cease to be active. Even my mind is agitated so much." Queen Chudala was enlightened. There's a very important point going to be made in this story, and that is there's always the possibility of a fall, no matter how enlightened you are. Or perhaps, O mind, you are seeking your own consort. On the other hand, my husband has surely forgotten all about his kingdom and me after all these years of asceticism. In that case, it is futile on your part, O mind, to get excited at the prospect of meeting him once again. So there's an emotional dilemma going on here. Chudala is excited about seeing her husband, but she knows after years of asceticism he might not even have thought about her for years, even though their love had been so great that it had crossed over death. "I shall restore equilibrium to the heart of my husband in such a way that he will return to the kingdom where we shall dwell together happily for a long time. That delight which is had in a state of utter equilibrium is superior to all other happiness." Thinking thus, Chudala reached the Mandara mountain. Still remaining in the sky, she saw her husband as if he were another person, for the king, who was always clothed in royal robes, now appeared as an emaciated ascetic. Chudala was depressed at this heart-breaking sight of her husband, clad in coarse garment, with matted locks, quiet and lonely, with his colour darkened considerably, as if he had had a bath in a river of ink. For a moment she thought, alas, the fruit of foolishness, for only the foolish reach such a condition as the king has reached. Well, he's reached the condition of an ascetic, so I think there's a bit of criticism going on here. Surely it is on account of his own delusion that he has thus secluded himself in this hermitage. Here and now I shall enable him to attain enlightenment. I shall approach him in disguise.